Hello.
Hello.
Good morning. Good morning.
How you guys doing today?
Excellent.
That's good. Okay, I'll start here. You guys are atheists, right?
Correct.
Correct. Which is to say that you believe there is, declaratively, you say there is no God, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
I'd just like to ask you a couple questions, really. Basically, I could address it to the individual in the middle, I guess, one guy. My first question would be, as an atheist, sir, do you know everything in the universe? Do you know everything there is to know in the universe?
No, I don't.
Okay. I guess you could put, if you were to put a percentage on it, would you say that you maybe know 1% of the things of everything there is to know in the universe? I mean, would that be a fair statement to you? I mean, with the whole solar system, the whole universe, everything there is to know.
It's hard to answer that because if you don't know everything there is to know, then you don't know how much of a percentage you actually do know.
That's actually true, but by looking at the vastness of the universe, and you know, with you could say even the things here on Earth, geology, physics, mathematics. Do you know everything about everything? I mean, what would you put your percentage as in terms of all there is to know?
We'll go with your percent. I have no problem with you putting 1% figure on that.
Right. You know, in my opinion, I think that might be somewhat of an arrogant figure for someone to say that they actually know 1% of everything.
Okay, I agree with that.
But anyway, well then, sir, if that's true, that you really only know a small fragment of what it is that is to be known, how is it that one could declaratively say by that information that there is no God, and hence prove a universal negative, which is impossible?
You're absolutely right. We're not out there to prove. I can easily turn that question around by saying that you cannot prove that there is a God. So,
well, that's actually wrong, sir, because just to take this as an example, if someone were to say that there is no gold in Alaska, okay, if someone were to make the statement that there is no gold in Alaska, which is a universal negative, one must, in order to prove that statement, someone would have to go to Alaska, cover every single inch of every single grain of sand, and count every single grain and every single thing in Alaska to say that there's no gold in Alaska.
Analysis of every molecule that's in there, because if you go all the way down to the molecular level, yes, I agree with that.
Well, what I'm saying is that if you're trying to prove that there's no gold in Alaska, you'd have to go through every grain of sand. But if one wanted to prove that there is gold in Alaska, all they'd have to do is go to one spot and one piece of ground in Alaska and find one little fragment of gold, and that would be proven.
You can do that and find that one piece of gold and prove that person wrong. That is something that is not only possible but probable. Can you find one little piece of a God, which is not at all probable, but is somewhat possible? Sure, we'll give you that. But probable? Can you find a piece of God? Can you find any God? Can you find any proof at all? Well, we go with what's been found, and the answer is no.
But what the problem is then, sir, is to go back to the Alaska analogy, is that you just admitted that you only know 1% of the knowledge to be known in the universe, and so by that there's 99% that you don't know. So therefore, could God live on Pluto? Have you ever been to Pluto?
It's up to you to prove that.
That's kind of a ridiculous question. No. That's kind of a ridiculous question, admittedly, but what I'm saying is that it's impossible for you to declaratively say that you know that there is no God, to make that universally negative statement that there is no God, whenever you only know such a small, tiny fragment of the information. Admittedly, you only know a small, tiny fragment of the information.
We don't generally say there is no God out. We don't generally make that universal, blatant statement.
Well,
what we generally say is there's no God been found. And there's no God been found.
So then you would have to be an agnostic then, sir. An atheist says that there is no God, right? I mean, do you not know, or go ahead.
It depends on your definition of God. We actually don't use the word God. We say that there is no supernatural being out there that, and then then put the word God.
But that doesn't change. That doesn't change the situation, sir.
Yes, it does. Like I said, it could easily turn the question around to you to prove God.
No,
and you have the forum right now. You have the floor.
Right.
You have the burden of that, by the way.
No, sir, that's absolutely incorrect, because if just like what you think about this, sir, if you say that there is no gold in Alaska, I mean, think about this. And all I would have to do, sir, all I would have to do is go to Alaska and anywhere find one piece of gold to prove what you said is wrong.
But that's what you've got to do with God. You've got to find a little piece of God, but you haven't done that yet.
Sir, but what I'm saying is that, but as far as your position is concerned, you would have to go and know every inch of Alaska in order to declaratively say that there's no gold in Alaska. Otherwise, you would be wrong. And what I'm saying, the way that relates to the reality, is that you say that there is no God, but you only know 1% of what's to be known in the universe. Therefore, there's 99% that you don't know. So how can you declaratively say that anything's so when you know so little, sir?
I
mean, aren't you an agnostic instead of an atheist?
No.
Okay. Let me address that just as quickly as I can. What you just told us in a very positive way, I think, is an excellent defense of the agnostic position. You can't know everything, therefore.
But aren't you atheist, sir?
Hey, am I atheist? Yes, I am.
Let me finish this point.
Okay, yes, sir.
But in our lives, we tend to take positions. We don't know everything, but some things we know much better than others, and some things we are convinced of. And I'm convinced there's no God.
But,
so I would be inaccurate about myself if I said that I was an agnostic, because frankly, for me, inside my head, there's no doubt.
Well, but
I don't have any doubt.
But sir, by your own admission here on this telephone call, you're saying that you're basing that belief that you know there's no God on the only 1% of the knowledge that there is to be known.
That's all I have. I'm going by my own experience.
Right.
And also by the fact that all my experience and all science tends to point to consistent natural law. And that pretty much precludes all the kind of things that build up to God. I mean, spirits, souls, afterlife, all the kind of stuff that maybe comes from folk tales or whatever. I think it's perfectly reasonable to reject it all.
But sir, you have to admit that you're basing that decision you've made of knowing on the fact that you don't know 99% of what there is to know. So, by your own admission, you're taking the smallest piece of information which you could possibly have and saying by virtue of that small piece of information, the much larger which you don't know, it's by that you're making your decision of knowing everything.
Okay.
It's not knowing what you claim to be the basis of your knowing, sir.
But that is still more knowledge and more information than what you're basing what a God. Are you telling me there is a God out there?
What?
Are you trying to tell me that there is a God out there?
Yes, sir. I'm a Christian, and
you're basing it on what information?
I'd like to debate you on this point if we could do that.
We'd love to have you on.
Okay. Could I get a number or something to?
Our web address.
Tell you what. Stay on the line, and my producer Kellen will get back with you, and we'll pop. And if you're up for it, we would gladly have you in here as a guest.
Yeah, there's a gentleman named Larry Wessels. Have you ever heard of him?
No, he's from Austin.
Yeah, he's from Austin. He's a gentleman who's a great warrior, in my opinion, as far as discussing atheists and agnosticism and defending the Christian faith. Really,
we would gladly welcome
that would be excellent.
Debate. Yes,
I would love to see Mr. Wessels up on the stage with you guys.
Okay, tell you what, stay on the line, and Kellen, our producer, will get with you.
Okay.
Thank you for calling.
Keep in mind that little 1% there, at the base, to say you declaratively don't know on the 1%, that leaving the 99%, there could be a tremendous body of information you haven't even considered, in your position.
And the same goes for you.
Well, it's different. All I need is that one nugget of gold. You have to search every grain of sand in Alaska to tell me there's no gold in Alaska. So all I need to do is go there and find one little
analogy, and you keep referring to it.
It's not a good analogy at all.
That is a good analogy. If you were to think about it.
Talk to our producer.
If you say there is no God, then you would have to go to every planet in the solar system, every place in the universe, to say that God doesn't live on Pluto, that He doesn't live underneath the rings of Saturn.
We've already got the burden of proof on you.
But all I would have to do is go to Venezuela and find God if He lived there. Don't you see the difference? That you would have to know everything.
Our producer would love to talk to you now about
your opinions.
So,
that's because you can't defend it, sir. Go ahead.
We have another call.
Mr. Wessels would destroy you.
We only have 3 minutes, too.
Okay.
We're glad to meet him, yes.
You're right, sir. Thank you very much for the call, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. And our next caller?